Yes, welcome back to the break of the show. Now, to all new parents out there, now we understand that one of the main concerns right from the get-go is your child's nutrition. Are they getting enough nutrients from the food they consume?
Now, more importantly, are they getting the right nutrients to support the rapid growth which they will go through and become big and strong like someone over here?
Well, I like to invite my parents on the show, but unfortunately, you know, they're very busy with their holidays. You know, retirees, it's hard to get them.
I know.
But not to worry, we are pleased to have with us once again our wellness guru, Mr. Wong Eugene, to share with us.
Hello, good morning, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, okay, so let's get right into it. Toddlers, we're talking about, you know, newborns to age 5. So how should parents go about managing their meal plans?
Right. Probably one of the things that parents are concerned the most would be the child's immunity. And the immunity is actually based on their lymphocytes, the health of their white blood cells.
All right.
The white blood cells fights the germs, the viruses, the fungi, and all that. So the white blood cells are very new. They want to know, they have to learn how to actually fight all these things.
Yeah.
So you have to create an environment which is best for the white blood cells to thrive.
Yes.
So that's by taking things like certain nutrients. One of the key ones would be essential fatty acids.
Right.
The main one being omega-3s.
Okay,
omega-3
and when
fatty
you talk
acids.
about food, where do you think you can get these from?
Food-wise, omega-3s would be generally from fish.
Any certain types of fish?
Yeah, the cold water fish would be best. Cod, salmon, tuna, sardines, and this would definitely be best.
All right.
But you can get them from supplements too.
Okay.
And don't forget about antioxidants.
Right,
You need to get a whole array of different colored fruits and vegetables into their diet.
And it also appeals to them too, because, you know, they see colors like, wow, you know, colors, they'll
And
want
it's good to start them young, you know,
Yes.
start them young. As soon as you start weaning them, have them eat broccoli. That's one of the hardest things to get a child to eat, I know.
Or Brussels or sprouts.
I still don't eat those
It
anymore.
depends on how you cook them. You have to cook them nicely. Yeah.
True, true.
Not too soft and not too hard.
So what about things that, you know, that parents should avoid feeding their kids that will actually, you know, slow down their
Yeah, so
growth?
on the other hand, you don't want the 3 things which parents should avoid. One would be sugar.
Yes.
Second would be hydrogenated oils, and the third would be sodium. So
Okay.
all 3 of these, not only is it bad for the body, but it also stops the absorption of other kinds of nutrients.
True, quite true.
So all these 3, if possible, try not to even have them in your diet.
Right, right. Like
Or very
fast
little
food,
of it.
obviously, that's one thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
I know.
and processed food, like a lot of the canned foods. If they're not specially formulated for children or babies, then you might get a lot of additives and chemicals.
Definitely,
in as well.
definitely, for sure.
And you know, a lot of parents probably are turning to organic foods because of the lack of pesticides. Do you think that this should be something that would be, you know, best introduced to a child?
Yep. Actually, on that point, the governments or the health organizations have said that normal types of vegetables and fruits, they've tested the pesticide levels and they're healthy enough for general adults.
Yeah.
But they do not test it for toddlers.
Right.
And they found that some of the levels are actually dangerous for toddlers.
Right.
So it leads to neurological problems, sometimes even cancer. So, and they generally consume much more fruits and vegetables per kilo of their body weight.
Just because they're tiny.
Yeah, so they're so tiny. So if possible, I always tell my clients, if you can afford it, go for organic food. Yeah.
At least just for your kids.
Yeah.
At least just for your kids.
Just for health purposes.
Okay, how about calcium? Of course, you know, they want their kids to grow big and strong,
Of course.
with strong bones. So how much calcium should a kid take?
Yeah, a kid should take about between 600 to 800 milligrams of calcium.
Okay.
That's equivalent to about 3 glasses of milk a day.
And this is right from the start, or like year 1? Or?
Yeah, probably year 1 to year 5.
Year 1 to year 5.
Year 1 to year 5. And milk is still the best source of calcium.
Yeah.
But if the kid, because a lot of kids actually have problems, they're allergic to lactose or to milk.
Yeah.
So the other choices would be broccoli, spinach, the greens, and you can have beans, all kinds of beans, kidney beans, chickpeas.
How about soy? Some people are actually looking to maybe replace milk with soy milk. Is that a viable option?
Yes, soy is also good in calcium, in any form, tofu or just the drink itself.
Yeah.
But just don't go overboard with soy.
Yeah.
Soy also creates a lot of allergic problems in kids. So you want to have a little balance there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, the key is balance.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that it's important to consume omega-3 fatty acids. Could you give us a breakdown of how much for different age groups?
Right. Omega-3 fatty acids, first of all, the best sources would be, I recommend flaxseed oil, the organic flaxseed oil. You can get them from health food stores. And they're usually, depends on the age, how much they should take it.
Yeah.
I've got a slide up for this one.
Okay, let's run that.
Yeah, so it's 1 teaspoon for years 1 to 2 years old,
Yep.
and 2 teaspoons for 2 to 3 years old, and 3 years and up, you take 1 tablespoon.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is if you don't introduce or if you don't give your child foods that are already rich with omega-3 and fatty acids,
Yes.
like you mentioned, fish and all that. So if you want to supplement where you don't have it in your food, flaxseed oil will be one of the
Yeah,
best.
generally Malaysians, they tend not to have enough of this. And it's very important for the child's immunity. Our foods, we don't take much of this kind of oils like olive oil or flaxseed oil. So it's good to introduce it as a supplement. But if they find that that taste is a little bit weird, cod liver oil is also fine.
Right.
So I think a lot of parents take cod liver.
Yeah, I think we all grew up with cod liver
Yeah.
oil, nice, strong and healthy nowadays.
But then they came up with the orange flavor.
I
remember
liked
it.
the orange
It's more
flavor
palatable,
more.
I think.
Yeah, so it was,
It was.
slightly more ingested, you know. I
Exactly.
could actually ingest it.
Now,
But
you
yeah.
mentioned just then about nutrients. So you mentioned calcium just then. You know, omega-3 fatty acids are the other nutrients that parents should look out for
Right.
when it comes to choosing what meals to prepare for their child.
Right. For the immune system, for the lymphocytes to grow really healthy, 2 more nutrients which parents have to look out for would be zinc and iron. The best sources for zinc would be actually oysters and...
Oh, but at such a young age?
Yeah,
I know some parents
so
maybe not introduce
a lot of
young.
parents would not want to introduce that.
Yeah.
And liver, also something that the parents don't really...
But kids surprisingly like liver.
It's actually quite okay, not too much of it.
Right.
Other sources would be like eggs, so eggs is fine as well. And iron would be things like beef, eggs again, and as well as turkey meat. Those are usually quite among the best ones.
Let's talk a little bit about iron deficiency. You know, throughout the years, actually the months of being a new mum, I read up a lot and I've come across iron deficiency as being one of the biggest problems that parents are facing. But how does that show up though? You know, how do you know that your child has a deficiency?
Well, iron is really, really important in creating the, like I said, the white blood cells. It's actually the backbone of the white blood cells. So if you don't have enough iron, the kid generally falls sick quite often. And you can tell, you know, if they fall, they get colds very often, just a little bit mixing around with other kids with germs, then they get cold again. So that's one of the ways to look at it. So you can do tests as well to ensure, to see that if they're short in irons. So you can ask your doctor how to do that.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Now, you know, especially, you know, parents these days who work a lot, you know, they generally don't cook, so they eat out a lot. So when it comes to bringing kids out, and if you're eating at a restaurant, what is advisable with kids eating out?
Well, I think the direction of that would be asking whether fast food is something acceptable.
Well, not necessarily just fast food. I mean, just eating out in general. Like, you know, hawker stalls or, or restaurants.
Like I said, the 3 main things which you have to look out for, and you don't want to have you want to have as little of this as possible. Would be sugar, hydrogenated oils, and salt. So hydrogenated oils you get a lot from the deep frying kind of food. So you want to avoid deep fried food and things which are processed. So you have processed meat which are like burgers,
chicken nuggets.
hot
People
dogs.
love giving kids chicken nuggets, and that actually I think is one of the worst things to give a child. You know, it's processed, so much sodium, and it's deep fried.
Exactly. I would tell, like, if you go to a good Italian restaurant where they serve real pizza made of proper cheese and proper tomatoes, and not like processed meat, maybe like seafood or chicken, or fish, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not too bad.
So that's a complete meal. Just that you gotta watch their portions because it's very dense in calories.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So not too much.
So that's much better. But I always say, you know, it's a compromise.
Yeah.
It's socializing. It's a family time as well.
Exactly.
So try to cut it down to probably once a week if you want to go to these fast food joints or some hawker joints.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one last question. Now, a lot of parents out there are vegetarians. And how do you do this with the child? I've heard that, you know, if a parent's vegetarian, they shouldn't really force it on the child. But how would you work around that? Is it okay for a child to be vegetarian in the first place?
You have to be very careful though, because the child's growing, so you need the proper nutrients. So the parents have to be very educated first. Generally, the child will be short in 4 different elements. They are zinc, iron, omega-3s, and finally protein. Because if you don't eat meat, you tend to get short of protein. And protein is required for their growth. So you need to know what are the good protein sources, and they must like it. So things like tofu, beans, and so on.
And it's hard to compensate because, like you mentioned, like you know, one piece of fish or one piece of chicken has so much protein in it. But to you know, compensate that amount, you have to eat quite a lot amount of beans, quite a lot of tofu. So unless you properly, you know, plan it out and make sure that they're getting the right
it's okay
amount.
actually. I mean, I've known kids who grew up very well as vegetarians, but the parents have to be educated. Don't be a casual vegetarian. You know, just for the sake of eating vegetables, and then they tend to be lacking in a lot of different nutrients.
Forsaking the other nutrients.
Exactly.
All right, I hope that has enlightened on the new parents out there, or, you know, parents to be as well. You know, they obviously doing their research, they're reading up a lot, but, you know, there's always so many schools of thought, you know, when you go out there in the market. So hopefully we've managed to enlighten some of it, and hopefully you know what to do when your kid does come around that age.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you very much, Eugene, for being on the show.
Always glad to be here.
Oh yes, and Eugene has a website as well, so if you want more information on the things that we've shared today and also the past stuff that we've covered before, log on to his website. It's www.wongeugene.com.
All right. Anyway, we actually have some more tips for you parents out there on how to achieve a balanced diet. Now, tip number 1, try and offer a range of different colored fruits and vegetables as they all contain different nutrients. The more colorful, the better.
And of course, if you're not lactose intolerant, milk should be part of your toddler diet every day, but be sure to include other calcium-rich dairy food too.
Tip number 3, just as Eugene mentioned, omega-3 is very, very important. You can include this in your toddler's diet, but make sure you take that this is an extra and you do not replace it with any other food groups.
And tip number 4, some foods to avoid would be, of course, salt. Keep it to minimum when cooking, and instead use herbs and spices to season. I like lemon juice. That's always great to squeeze it on anything that you'd like to eat.
And tip number 5, additives and sweeteners like those found in drinks and sweets should be avoided. So I think one of the best drinks to offer your child is actually milk and water. And if your child loves juice, water it down a little bit so at least it's not as sweet.
And don't need to add sugar into it, right? So we're just reiterating what Eugene has said earlier on anyhow. So we just want to give it into more concise form. Hopefully you took that down. If you have been taking notes, log on to Eugene's website, www.wongeugene.com.
All right. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here on The Breakfast Show.